Hi everybody, this is Lara at pureelliottwave.com, working through my list of cryptocurrencies to analyse that people have requested from my membership and from the YouTube channel. Today I'm going to look at Avalanche, or AVAX-USD. I found some data on Yahoo Finance, yay, because that's just the easiest data for me to upload into MotiveWave. I've uploaded it into MotiveWave and I've already done my classic technical analysis, so let's have a go at an Elliott wave count. The first thing I see is, well, let's view this on a semi-log scale. That's a bit better. That's easier to see, isn't it? When you're viewing data over a longer term time frame of a data set that exhibits exponential growth, it's correct to view it on a semi-log scale, not an arithmetic scale. The first thing I notice is there's an overlap from this high to this low, so I wouldn't want to label this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the next thing I notice is, let's just check this low is 9.3748. And yeah, this is below. So here's the low, not here. So from this low to this high, this looks like one wave, but it looks like a three-wave structure. So I'm not sure how I'm going to label that at lower time frames. I wonder if this one just doesn't have enough volume for decent looking Elliott wave structures. And the next thing I notice is this high here, 59.93984, and this close here, 78. I'd rather see it down here if I was considering buying this. So I think I might have missed the boat on this one. Let's bring in an Elliott wave impulse. And I think I want to label this cycle degree. Let's start with a cycle degree. And I wonder if I want to label this 1, 2, and then, oh no, this can't be 3, 4 because this low here, 53.939, this low here is back in this price territory, so this could be another 1, 2. Okay, so that's a rough idea. I'm going to start the wave countdown from here, this low, 27th of December 2020. I want to look, I don't want to spend too much time on this corrective structure. It's super choppy and overlapping. It looks like it could be, I think, actually this is a zigzag, this is really easy. And there's an overlap here. Is this an ending diagonal? Yep. Wavelengths fit. Do the trend lines fit? Yeah, they're okay. They're contracting. And the upper trend line's respected here and tested. Okay, so cycle 2 fits as a zigzag. And again, I keep noticing primary B here is an expanded flat, and within it, intermediate wave B. I think this is probably an expanded flat. Regular or expanded, I think minor B is probably longer than 1.05, the length of minor A. So common to see B waves unfolding as expanded flats, particularly B waves within B waves. I keep seeing that all the time. So if you expect price might be entering a B wave, consider an expanded flat. They're super hard to analyse and super hard to trade. And then the next question would be, is primary wave 2 over here? How much of a correction of primary 1 would it be? I'm just going to calculate that. Only 67%. And it's only lasted 8 weeks. Here, cycle 2, 23 weeks. Cycle 1, 6 weeks. I might need to move the whole degree of labelling of this whole thing all down 1 degree. And I don't think this primary degree correction is over. I think this is probably going to be a combination double zigzag. Sorry, a double zigzag, not a combination. Okay, so that's my rough idea at the weekly chart level. It actually looks like it might have enough volume, but let's have a really good look at this potential impulse here that I've labelled primary wave 1. I'm going to do a daily chart. Okay, I've copied that work over to a daily chart. Let's have a look at this primary wave 1. Am I viewing this? No, I need to view it on a semi-log scale. When you view it on a semi-log scale, it's a little bit more obvious. The structure of primary 1 looks like a 3-wave structure. Okay, we're starting down here. Let's put some labels for an impulse in this, because it doesn't look like a diagonal. It's either an impulse or a zigzag. Let's try and figure out which one it might be. Okay, if we put this here and here, there's a horrible proportion between intermediate 2 and intermediate 4. Intermediate 4 is only 1 day, intermediate 2, 14. It's pushing it, but fourth waves for these cryptocurrencies can very often be more brief than their counterpart second waves. Oh, okay, this might work. Okay, I think, is this a leading diagonal for minor wave 1? No, I think the wavelengths aren't going to work. I'm expanding it out to look at wavelengths. 2 is shorter than 1, 5 is shorter than 2, 3 is shorter than 1, 5 is shorter than 3, but 4 is longer. That doesn't work. So, what else could be happening here? Oh, this is so okay. Series of overlapping first and second waves, but are we going to get the third wave? I don't think that's going to work. No, oh god, it doesn't work. Oh, what a pain. What else is happening here? This low, 51.22, 52. Oh, this low is below this. Okay, what if... Oh, okay. I'm gonna, if I count this, or you could count that one as well, no, because there's a 5. So here is the first and second wave, here is the third and fourth wave, and then now you can see a really nice looking impulse for the fifth wave. Would you just put those labels where I intend them to be, please, motive wave? That'd be great. No? Okay. And then minor 2, an expanded flat. 52, 8, 6, 8, 9, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, C moves below A, so I'm avoiding a running flat. C looks like it might be an ending diagonal. Checking wavelengths, that looks good. Trend lines look good. Okay, great, that actually does work. Now the third wave is going to work. Oh yeah, it could even work like that. I'll put that there though. And then you've got this. Oh, come on, put them where you know where I want to put them. There. That looks good. Yeah, cool. Oh, and I'm going to put 3 here. I can see a nice little impulse for 5. So we put 3 here. Nice. And 1, oh, is there an overlap here? No, there isn't. Great. I think this is probably a double zigzag. Nope, put that there. Yep, 2 zigzags. Nice. Okay, great. That actually does work. The problem here is a proportion with it. 23 days for minor 2, whereas 1 day for minor 4. That's pushing it. However, it's really common for commodities and cryptocurrencies to exhibit relatively swift, or rather brief and shallow fourth waves in comparison to their time-consuming and deeper second waves. Also, we've got minor 2 at 23 days, intermediate 2 at 14 days. Doesn't give the wave count the best look, but that doesn't violate any Elliott wave rules, and sometimes when an impulse starts out slowly it can do that. The absolute reality is this pullback lasted 14 days, and this pullback, even if you start it here, from this high to this low is 19 days. This is a pullback coming after this pullback, so it comes after. The degree is going to be lower. It just does take longer. Now you could also label this as a zigzag from this low to this high. I think that would also fit. but I'm going to leave that there. That's enough for me to see that this market is exhibiting Elliott wave structures that have a reasonable look. Okay. And is there an overlap here? Oh, great. That looks like a really good impulse, doesn't it? Okay, this market looks like it's got enough volume. So, if I did, and I probably won't purchase any of this, but if I did, I would use Elliott wave as part of my strategy. Let's take a look at classic before we go there. So, okay, let's figure out a target. Okay. Oh, no, not that. This. Target for primary wave 2. Okay, well, first things first, here's the invalidation point. Primary 2 may not move beyond the start of 1. How deep was cycle 2 in relation to cycle 1? 88%. Okay, it looks like Avalanche is exhibiting typical behaviour, so typical of all these other cryptocurrencies I've analysed, and that its high degree second waves tend to correct between 80 to 90% of the first wave they're correcting. So cycle 2 here, this low, is an 88% correction of cycle 1. So first things first, let's calculate that range, 80 to 90% for primary 2. Where would that be? Okay, I've calculated a range and a target for primary 2. Primary 2 at this low here has already passed the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio of primary 1. I pulled a Fibonacci ratio over here and put this on an arithmetic scale because I do not think that you should be applying a logarithmic function to Fibonacci ratios. I think Fibonacci ratios should be arithmetic. I don't think you should be mucking around with them, squaring them, finding the square root, finding a logarithmic function. They are arithmetic. So intermediate W has already passed the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio of primary wave 1, which is at 61.627735. So, and you'll expect primary 2 to be deeper anyway. So here's the first target for intermediate Y to reach 0.618, the length of intermediate W at 41.55. Were intermediate Y to reach equality in length with W, that would take it below the invalidation point. I tried 0.382, 0.236, they wouldn't take Y below W, so here's the next Fibonacci ratio, and here's my target, but it may not be low enough. Primary 2 would most likely end within a range from 80 to 90% the length of primary wave 1. So that's the conclusion from the Elliott wave analysis. Let's jump over to some classic analysis and have a look. I've already prepared these charts. Here's a weekly chart for Avalanche from its inception down here to the last completed weekly candlestick. I've noted all of the bullish and bearish candlestick reversal patterns which are occurring in the context of a trend on this chart so that we can see how reliable they are. Right at the beginning here, this bearish engulfing candlestick pattern, yes, was followed by more downward movement. Here's a hammer, probably. Here's another hammer, hammering out lows. Wasn't the eventual low there, and it's not until we see a bullish engulfing candlestick pattern, which is the strongest bullish reversal pattern, that Avalanche found its first major low down here and embarked on its first major bullish run. When we get to the middle part, we've got a hammer here, but it wasn't a full reversal, it was just a short pause. And this illustrates one of the things about candlestick patterns, or a couple of things. They indicate a trend reversal, but there are three directions for price: up, down, or sideways, and a candlestick pattern doesn't say which of the next two possible directions you're going to see. This candlestick pattern is a bearish reversal pattern, comes in the context of an obvious upward trend that ran for 3 weeks. It tells us of a potential trend change. It doesn't tell us if the price is just going to go sideways or we're going to see a full 180-degree reversal to downward movement. You have to put it into context with all the other indicators at the time. The second thing candlestick patterns don't tell you is how long the next trend is going to last. And so putting those 2 points together doesn't tell you next direction, doesn't tell you how long. You can have either a full 180-degree reversal with a long-term sustainable trend in the opposite direction, or you could have a short-term sideways movement, and that's what happened here. A little bit of consolidation before we get an upward breakout and more upward movement. And then here we get a big bearish upper wick, so that's indicating strong caution. And then we get this evening star candlestick pattern at the weekly chart level, so it's absolutely unsurprising there was more downward movement. Here we get a shooting star, which is normally a bullish candlestick reversal pattern. I probably shouldn't have noted that because it's now coming in the context of a consolidation. After some downward movement, we get a bullish engulfing candlestick pattern here. It was only followed by movement up to resistance before then we get some strong bearish movement. And then at this low we get a morning star candlestick pattern with these three, so this is indicating a potential trend change, and in this instance, coming in the context of a downward trend, didn't reach extreme with RSI and ADX didn't catch up. Stochastics did reach oversold, so in the context of oversold conditions we did get a full 180-degree reversal. After some upward movement we get a shooting star. It was followed by a little bit of downward movement, a little bit more upward movement. This is a bullish long lower wick too. Here we get a bearish engulfing candlestick pattern, but quite quickly that was formed in the context of a little bit of downward movement by this morning doji star, a bullish reversal, and now we get upward movement. This is not a dark cloud cover. The body of this candlestick has not closed within at least 50% of the body of the prior candlestick. I checked the accurate arithmetic length of these bodies and calculated that. It's not enough, so that's not a bearish candlestick pattern. So there's no bearish candlestick pattern at this important high. There's a hammer candlestick pattern here at this low, so unsurprising we're getting upward movement, but at the weekly chart level we've got two gravestone doji. These are bearish candlestick patterns. In the context of a little upward movement, this supports a bearish Elliott wave count. Okay, enough about candlesticks. Resistance at 130, support at 50, below that 38. For the short term, let's look at volume. Volume supported this upward movement. We get to this high here, strong volume, decline on the last candlestick though, and then from here to here, overall declining volume. Within this upward movement, some support from volume, but it didn't reach the peak back here. So, at the end of this movement, absolutely unsurprising, we're getting downward movement after volume is now no longer really pushing price higher like it was back here. So we could see more downward movement following that. This does look like a really important high on this chart. Volume is stronger in recent upward weeks though here, upward movement, and here, this upward movement, got quite strong volume, and this red candlestick doesn't have as much volume as these green candlesticks. So I'd read the short to mid-term volume profile a little bit bullish, doesn't support the Elliott wave count. I could be wrong though, and this is quite strong volume on a red candlestick, although it's a doji, so that's inconclusive. On balance volume is it's quite bullish actually. It's made new highs here, above here, so there's some bullish divergence there. I'd rather use it with trend lines though, and there's no signal with this reasonable resistance or reasonable support. There was no bearish divergence between price and RSI at these highs. RSI can reach overbought and it can remain there for a few weeks, while price can move a huge distance. So RSI reaching overbought for Avalanche doesn't mean a bullish run has to end. In its price history it hasn't reached oversold yet, so we can't tell if it gets there how long it could stay there. We just don't have that information. Right now RSI is neutral. There is plenty of room for price to go up or down. The prior upward trend reached very extreme. It was above 45 and above both DX lines. Now the ADX line is declining, telling us there's no clear trend. Back here it reached over 70, so it looks like this cryptocurrency will behave similarly to others, and ADX can reach very, very extreme. Stochastics overbought here. Oops, back into neutral territory now. Plenty of room for price to rise or fall for a trend to develop. ATR increasing as price rises, declining as price falls, declining as price falls. Again, typical behavior of these cryptocurrencies. These gravestone doji, I think, are the strongest signal on this chart. They are bearish. That supports the Elliott wave analysis. What about the daily chart? Let's look. I'm going to look at this consolidation, resistance 130, support at 50 on the daily chart. Let's zoom into that. So resistance here about 136, there's resistance above about 140, and resistance within here about 121. There's a bit of resistance about 79 when I look left off the chart, and support about 50. The moving average situation is bullish, not fully so. The short and the mid are above the long. The long is positively sloped. Price is above the long. Price is consolidating, whipsawing from resistance to support. How stochastics behaving? Not really very helpful. It can remain overbought for quite a long period of time in an upward swing. It reaches oversold. It can remain there for a few days. So price reach support about 79 there. An upward swing to here. Stochastics reaches overbought. Can remain overbought longer, it seems, than it gets oversold. We see a downward swing. We see support about 79 here. Barely touched, didn't get into oversold, and then we see a little bounce and then a break below that support going down to next support at 50. Gets oversold twice here, gets overbought here, price reaches up above resistance. It's a really complicated, difficult to analyze, huge consolidation. Sadly, it's just not giving us really, really good information. So higher above resistance 121. I'd look for resistance now about 79. Prices closed below that. Let's look for support for a downward swing to continue till stochastics gets oversold. Price may get to support. Bearish engulfing candlestick pattern here. I haven't noted any candlestick patterns on this chart, but there's quite a few. After this upward swing, here's a bearish candlestick pattern. There was another bearish one here. Bullish hammer, bullish long lower wick. Now moving lower, volume is declining as price moves lower. Volume tends to increase as price moves higher. Increase here as price moves higher. Stronger volume on the bearish candlestick pattern though, so we can have confidence in that. That also supports the Elliott wave count. There's a weak bearish signal from on-balance volume to support the Elliott wave count. RSI is in neutral and ADX indicates no clear trend. And stochastics neutral. I think overall it's fairly reasonable to expect Avalanche is probably going to fall at least down to 50. Let's see what happens when it gets there. Will ADX indicate a downward trend? Will stochastics reach oversold? If there's a downward trend and RSI is still neutral, then price could break below 50. But if ADX doesn't indicate a downward trend and stochastics is oversold, if price gets there, look out for a bounce there. That's it from me with your Avalanche analysis. I hope you guys find this useful and someone can profit from it. Let me know if you do. And thank you all again so much to the support from everyone who's subscribed on the YouTube channel, and I really do appreciate your engagement. I find it a lot of fun. Thanks.